Hi, I'm Kara Stein from 17,000 Days. Thank you for joining me for Clients and Flow. Today, we're going to talk about how to create a business that gives you flow. What do I mean by that? Well, basically, you have all the work that you want with clients that inspire and energize you, and you have the margin to do your work without rushing or stress. You have the balance to allow you to spend most of your time doing what you're best at. You have plenty of time for rest, self-care, creativity, and relationships with your loved ones, and you're living your values. And most of all, perhaps most importantly, you have peace because you know you can always get what you need. Your business is working. You have plenty of everything that you need, including not just money, but also time. And you know it works, and you know that you can keep doing it. So that's what this training is about. And I want to share a story with you about why this is so important to me. A few years ago, I was working just a regular job. Um, I was working for a university, and it wasn't a bad job. A lot of people probably have similar experiences where their life is okay, and maybe they even feel guilty about complaining. I kind of did, but it's just not enough. It's not good enough. It's not what you want. It's not meeting your needs, really, and you feel like you're wasting your time. There's got to be more than that. And so that's where I was back in 2011. And I quit my job to start 17,000 Days, which is about living your best life and making the most of, whatever it is that you want to be and whatever it is that you want to do. 17,000 Days is about being that to the absolute fullest and living your life consciously and enjoying all of the time that you can. And so I started this business, and it took me a little while before I started making money, but um, I managed to start a freelancing business where I was helping people finish and publish their books. And so this was kind of a dream job for me because I got to edit and design book covers and help people. For a lot of people, this is a bucket list thing or a big dream that they've had for years and years and years to actually be a published author. And I was helping them realize that dream. So that was a huge honor, and it was really a labor of love. And I built the business from really having no idea how to even get clients or how to do any of this stuff to, learning all the skills and learning how to write proposals and bringing in, first a couple of clients and then more and more until I had more clients than I really know what to do with. And I was so proud of myself. Like, it was really extremely gratifying to have built the business from absolutely nothing to the point where I was really making a living doing something that I absolutely love doing. So you're probably suspecting that things are about to go south in this story, because why would I be telling you this if it was just a success story, right? Well, you're right. After a couple of years of just working as hard as I possibly could and taking all of the clients that I could get and doing all of the projects, I ended up having kind of a breakdown and burning out. And I got to the point where I really couldn't make myself work at all. And so, as you can imagine, my clients were not too pleased about that. I ended up losing pretty much all of my clients and just melting down and spending actually 2 years about not being able to work at all, really, to speak of, and not knowing what to do about it. And I felt like a giant failure because I had built this business and then I destroyed it. And it was actually only very recently that I realized, with the help of my coach, that actually wasn't a failure at all. I had been seeing it as a massive failure because, when you start a business, you're supposed to continue that business and keep making money and keep growing and do all the things that your clients want you to do. And we have this mythology that business is supposed to be hard and you're supposed to work 24/7 and be stressed and be crazy, and if you're not doing those things, then you're not really a real entrepreneur anyway. And so I just couldn't keep doing that stuff, and then I couldn't really make myself do anything. So I felt like this massive failure. And my business coach pointed out that this thing that I had seen as a giant failure actually was not a failure at all. And at first I was just like, what? Like, I spent all my savings and actually had to take money out of retirement and killed all of my income and like lost all my clients. Like, how is this not a failure? But she pointed out that I still, if I wanted to keep doing that, I still have clients coming in, potential clients coming in off of my website wanting me to do these projects. And I built really a successful business. The only thing that I was missing was the ability to set the right boundaries so I didn't work way too much all the time. And so by myself, that had seemed insurmountable. And I just crashed and gave up and didn't know what to do. But what she pointed out was that I was really close to having the perfect business for me. And I just didn't know the small thing that would have taken me from this life of stress and burnout and breakdown to something that actually flowed and worked. And so if I had had a coach at that time, all of that crash and burn and feel like a failure part really wasn't necessary. Like, she could have just helped me tweak the business to the point where it was first livable maybe, and then actually enjoyable and working and flowing. And so it was really it was really a startling revelation to me that this whole thing that I thought was just a doomed terrible failure was really actually a near miss that totally didn't need to derail my life for 2 years and destroy my savings. So that's why this topic is so important to me. Basically, I have done a lot of things right and just enough wrong to make myself utterly miserable and cost myself a whole lot of money, and really take a career that was my dream career and ruin it. I mean, not necessarily permanently, but that was the effect in the short term. And so I don't want that to happen to you. As you're building your business, as you get more clients, as you get more success, the one thing that I would love for you not to do is what I did, which is just keep trying to do everything and end up burning out when you're so close to having the life of your dreams. So the presentation today is about how to make sure that doesn't happen. So I would like you to stop for a minute and just think about what this would mean for you. What if you had an abundant, steady stream of ideal clients, all the clients you could possibly want, and not just any clients, but inspiring, amazing, awesome clients, dream clients. And you had the ability to manage the work so you could run your business without getting overwhelmed, overworked, burning out, without that thing where it's like, oh, I've got all this work to do and I know I should exercise, but maybe I'll do that tomorrow, or maybe I'll do it next week or next month or next year, and you never get to it. Without all that, you just have all the inspiring, awesome clients and amazing work that you want, and the ability to manage it well so that you have all the time that you want. Because that's what it comes down to: plenty of money and plenty of time. So take a second to imagine what that would look like in your life. What would that be like for you? Sounds pretty awesome, right? That is what I want for you. And that's why I want to share my roadmap for clients and flow. That's what the presentation is about today. Basically, I'm going to tell you a model that presents the 6 pieces that come together to make that life of clients and flow that I've been talking about. So if you get all these elements together, you will have the ability to create all the money and all the time that you want. And that's the goal. That's what I want for you. So the first element is passion. And you probably, if you're here, I'm betting you're already there with the passion. You know what you love. You've built this business to be something that's really important to you. You know what a difference you make. You do work that you're passionate about. And one thing that sometimes people miss is that it's important to do it your way. Like I struggled not too long ago, I struggled about whether I wanted to be a life coach or a graphic designer. And I kept going back and forth about it. And every time I went to a retreat or an event of any sort, people would tell me, oh, you're such an amazing designer. That's a gift. You shouldn't let that fall by the wayside. You should do that. But at the same time, I was really drawn to coaching as well. And so every time I went to one of these transformational events, I ended up really upset about that because I felt like either way, I was giving up something that was really important to me. And finally, I came to the realization that I could do both of those things. The only reason that hadn't worked in the past is that I hadn't been giving myself enough time. So I would try to, for example, if I was building a sales page, I would write the sales copy as quickly as possible. And then I would just stick it up on the website and think like, okay, this needs to be done quickly. Here we go. Should take about an hour. Stick it up on the website. Done. Which really gave me no satisfaction. You know, it felt good to have it done. It felt good to have it out there, but it wasn't awesome, you know? But once I decided to stop worrying about how long things take and instead just make them and spend the time that it takes to make them how I wanted them. And so I basically decided to be the life coach who makes everything an art project. And what I've found is that since I started doing that, everything that I make is awesome. And I still can be a life coach. And I feel so much happier and I enjoy what I do so much more. Like I used to really hate marketing, honestly. I thought it was scary and I didn't think I was good at it. And it didn't seem like it worked anyway. It seemed like it was just this stressful thing where nothing ever worked and it was a big waste of time. But since I've started making my sales pages and all that kind of stuff into an art project, first of all, I really enjoy it. And secondly, every time I share anything that I've made, I'm really proud of it. And I get all these people writing to me and saying, wow, this is amazing. Oh, it's so awesome. So that makes a huge difference. So whatever that is for you, do it your way. Whatever that means for you, that's really important. And even if it takes longer, it's still worth doing. Do it your way. The second piece of the roadmap for clients and flow is probably the first thing that you were thinking when you heard this topic, and that's information, knowing what to do. So that's really important, and a lot of people think it's the only thing that you need, but actually knowing what to do is really just, well, I was going to say the first step, but in this model it's the second step. It's not enough. You need it, but it's not going to take you all the way. And to show you what I mean by that, think about all the businesses that you know that don't have a steady flow of clients, that don't have this ease and flow that we're trying to build. Probably most of those businesses, if the person running them has been in business very long, they probably know that they should set up an email list and that they should market all the time and all the things that are required. It's very unlikely that they don't know that that's what they need. For example, I mean, in my business, there have been a variety of different iterations that I've gone through. And many of those I never built. I knew things that you need to build and I never built them. But the freelancing business, even, for example, like I never set up that foundation to make everything flow smoothly. And I knew exactly what to do, but I just didn't do it. So it's important to realize that the information isn't going to get you all the way. But at the same time, if you don't know how to do it, you're just going to stay stuck. So I just want to give you a quick overview of what it takes to build flow into your business, to build an abundant stream of clients. And so basically there are 4 pieces to this. The first piece is a way to get the word out. If people don't know about your business, they can't buy your stuff. So you need a way to get the word out about it. And a lot of people want to pick a whole bunch of different ways. But what I've found with my clients is that actually it's best to pick just one way that you're really good at, that plays to your strengths, and focus on that way. And here's why that's important. If you get a whole lot of clients, a lot of times you get a whole lot of work. And, if you're so busy and so stressed out doing work for the clients, that's where the feast or famine cycle comes in. A lot of times people get all this work, they're trying to do all the work and meet all the deadlines. And so the first thing to fall by the wayside is marketing. So when they get done doing that work, then there are no new clients. And so then that's where the famine part comes in, and they freak out and they have to do a whole bunch of marketing to try and catch up. And they just keep repeating that process. So if you have a way to spread the word that you can do almost effortlessly, and just do it continuously, that will be the hugest thing as far as breaking the feast and famine cycle. It's way better to have an ongoing stream of clients coming in than to have to keep doing these big pushes to try and get them. So one way to get the word out that is based on your strengths. The second piece is a great first impression. One first impression incentive to get people to take a look at you, sign up for your email list, and get to know you better. So for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, that's an ebook or a webinar or a mind map or an infographic, even some kind of free thing that you can offer people in exchange for the chance to get to know you a little bit better. And again, it's great if that can be something automated so it can continue regardless of how busy you are. The third piece that you need is a way to build relationships. And again, it's very important to do this based on your strengths, because otherwise you just won't do it. So for example, you could do a newsletter that goes out every week or every 2 weeks. You could do a podcast. You could do blogging. You could do, you could release a video every week or two. Just some way that you keep releasing content and keep staying in touch with the people who are your fans. And finally, the last piece you need is one powerful offer. And this is basically whatever it is that you want to sell to people. So it could be a service, it could be a product. As far as services, it could be a done-for-you service or a coaching service. It could be an e-course, an e-book, any kind of program or package. You just need to pick something that you're going to offer in exchange for money. And my recommendation is to pick one of each of these things and just focus on that until you build the business to the point where you have a steady stream of all the clients you need. And the problem that a lot of people run into is that it's not as easy as just putting something out there and then everybody buys it and you're happy. A lot of people take months or years to get to know you before they ever buy. For example, my business coach, I first encountered her in January of 2012, I think, when she was hosting a telesummit. And I really liked her and I thought she was awesome. I already had a business coach, so I wasn't in the market for another one. And I just stayed on her mailing list. And occasionally I'd read one of her messages or something, but really pretty much had forgotten about her until this past summer, 2016, when I attended one of her retreats and actually ended up becoming a client. So you never know how long it may take from the first meeting with someone, and like that can be a virtual meeting and often is, to the time when they actually become a client. So it's important to have a way to cultivate those people, and that's what we're working on building here. So that is, in the very tiniest nutshell, what to do to build this system. And the other piece of information that I would like to share with you is that if you worry about getting overwhelmed, if you experience that a lot, what most people don't seem to know is that overwhelm comes from trying to do everything at once. So if you want to overcome your overwhelm, the best thing you can do is prioritize. And that sounds probably very simplistic, but I know there was one time when I was I had a freelancing client whose book I was working on, and I was actually releasing a book of my own. This was when adult coloring was a really big, at the peak of its trendiness. And so I'd released a coloring book, and I really wanted to release some greeting cards to color. And so I knew basically the overwhelm for me was the feeling of knowing that there was not enough time to do this client work and meet all of her deadlines and to design these greeting cards and release them on the timeline that I wanted to. And so I felt like this stressy freak out thing because what I was trying to do was impossible. So of course you would feel stressed and freaked out if you were trying to do something that you know was impossible. And what I ended up having to do is decide, like, okay, which thing is more important to me? Like, obviously I can't do both of these things on the timeline that I have in my mind. So which one is going to slide? And I had to make that decision. And as soon as I did, then I knew what to do. I knew what to work on. And I was no longer trying to do the impossible. And so the feeling of overwhelm left. So anytime you start feeling yourself feeling overwhelmed, that's my recommendation. Look at the things you're trying to do and decide what's most important, and then just pick number one and start doing it, and the overwhelm will leave you. So that's the information piece. The next piece of the roadmap is belief. And this is a really important one that's often overlooked. If you don't believe that you can do what you're offering, you'll never sell it. And so if you're having a hard time attracting clients or attracting enough sales, that is one place to look. You need to believe that you can do it. And I want to say that imposter syndrome is totally normal. Like, probably everyone has it. In fact, I just read a story earlier today about Neil Gaiman was at this party, and he was looking around, and all these people were so famous and they had done all these amazing things, and he was like, what am I doing here? I've just written some books. Like, I'm not really worthy to be here. And so he started talking to this guy, and this guy was like, well, I don't know, all these people here have done all these amazing things, and like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. All I've done is just go where they told me. Like, I haven't done anything special. And Neil Gaiman was like, you were the first man to walk on the moon. I think you've done something pretty special. And so he took away from that, like, if even Neil Armstrong worries that he hasn't done anything special and feels like he doesn't belong in a room of overachievers, um, probably pretty much everybody who's awesome worries about that. So if you're there, that's really normal, and it's probably a sign actually that you're amazing. So don't let it stop you. That's the important thing. Find a way to look at what you've done and believe in yourself. And a lot of times the easiest way to do that, honestly, is to talk to the people who know you, the people who support you and love you and are your good friends and admire you. To them, it's obvious the ways that you're a success. It's just to you that it's not. So I would suggest that if you're struggling with this, pick your 5 closest friends who are actually supportive of you, not the backstabby ones, if you have any of those. Pick your good friends and ask them, like, what is the best thing about me and what do you admire about me? And be prepared for an amazing flood of awesome results, because I did this. It was an assignment actually in my coaching school. And I was actually afraid that nobody was going to reply. This was like a Saturday afternoon, and they were like, call some people or write to them or whatever and find out what's awesome about you and write it down here. And then, like, when we get back from break, we'll all talk about it. And I was just like, oh no, everybody else here is amazing. And probably nobody will even answer the phone if I call them. And it's a Saturday afternoon and everyone's busy having lives. And like, I'm going to be the only person here who has nothing to report, no awesomeness whatsoever. And so I was really afraid of this. And so I posted on Facebook, I texted everyone I could think of, and I emailed some people too. And I just went everywhere that I could think of that anybody who might like me would be. It was like, hey, everybody, like, I've got this assignment for coaching school. I need you to tell me what's awesome about me. And to my surprise, not only did I have more than one result, more than 0 results, I actually had this huge flood of results. And a lot of the people said the same things, and it was really touching and really amazing. So I really recommend doing that, because if you don't feel how awesome you are, even if you do, you know what? Probably the people around you know that even more than you do. So it's really amazing to hear what they say. I totally recommend doing that. If you're more specifically not feeling confident about what you offer or what you're selling, it's important to find a way to build up that confidence and to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in what you're doing, the people who interact with you can sense that, and so then they won't believe in you either. And maybe if you're just starting out, that means offering something smaller that you feel like you can really deliver. Narrowing down, maybe lowering the price to something that feels like it resonates with you, temporarily, until you build up your confidence to offer what you really want to be able to deliver. So again, that was piece 3, belief. The 4th piece of the roadmap is desire. This is also a tricky one that a lot of people overlook. It's easy to think that we really want what we're trying to build, and then be really confused if we don't actually build it. But a lot of times, if you find yourself encountering that kind of situation, the reason is because there's something else you want even more. And a lot of times that's very simple. It's just to play it safe, to not have anything change. Or it could be to not get hurt. It could be to not have to take responsibility. And sometimes it goes deeper than that. For example, it wasn't too long ago, I was trying to, I don't want to say start a diet or lose weight, because those are not like the healthiest kind of terms, mentally healthy. But that's basically what I was trying to convince myself to do. I had gained a lot of weight. I really didn't like how my body felt. I knew I would feel better if I was eating better food and exercising. And I was outgrowing all of my clothes, and I wanted to stop having to buy bigger clothes. I was just right on the border between regular sizes and plus sizes. And I have never been a plus size person, and that felt like a big barrier for me. Like, if I cross into the land of plus size, there's probably no coming back. And like, that's not what I want for myself. So I was like, okay, self, like, you know what to do. It's really not that hard. Eat more vegetables, stop eating sugar, and go for walks in the woods. Like, that alone would probably take care of most of this. Like, probably not quickly, but eventually. And you would feel so much better. Like, I know this. I know if I walk in the woods, I feel really good. And if I don't, I don't. Yet somehow it's really hard to convince myself to walk in the woods, right? Maybe you've had similar situations. So I decided that I wanted to do this. And then I didn't do it. And I was like, okay, self, come on, like, let's do this. And I still didn't do it. And what I finally realized is that I had made some kind of a deal with myself, where I had decided that if I was fat enough, then nobody would be attracted to me, and I would be safe from falling in love. And that was important to me because um, a few years ago, I was dating a guy and madly, madly in love with him, convinced he was the love of my life, wanted to spend all my time with him. He absolutely adored me. It was just this very amazing, sparkly, like, best thing ever, like, dream life kind of relationship. And he was diagnosed with cancer, and I took him to all of his treatments and everything and stayed by him. And ultimately, he died. And so the thought of having the possibility of having something like that happen again, I guess you can see I'm even now thinking about it, tearing up, because it was so painful. And I wanted to keep myself safe from that. And so uh, apparently I was convinced that if I gained a whole lot of weight, then nobody would possibly be attracted to me, and I would never have to feel that kind of pain again. And the other thing about gaining a lot of weight is you get to eat a lot of ice cream, and I like a lot of ice cream. and you get to sit on the couch a lot. And I really have to admit, I like sitting on the couch. And so as hard as it is to believe in a way, like I had a really hard time giving up being a fat lady. I hate to put it that way, but basically that's, you would think I'd totally want to stop doing that as soon as possible. And I totally did not want to stop doing that ever, basically. And so it took a lot of deciding and redeciding and taking little baby steps and backsliding. And finally, I got over the threshold and was bought into how much better it feels to eat vegetables and not eat so much sugar, or maybe no sugar, ideally, and walk a lot. And I started losing the weight, and it was like, wow, okay, this really is worth it. It's worth the risk of, oh my God, I might fall in love again. Like, oh no, you know? Um, so if there's something that you've been really wanting, or that you think you've been really wanting, yet you find yourself not doing it and not doing it and not doing it, look for what you're getting out of not doing it. Because there's something, or otherwise you'd be already doing what you said you wanted to do. And that's just one example. Like I said, a lot of times it's just staying safe. Like if you don't tell anybody about the retreat you're hosting or your new service or your new product or whatever, then you don't have to worry about anybody saying it sucks, or making fun of you, or even just refusing to buy it. You know, like we put our heart and soul into the things that we create, and then if nobody wants them, it feels like rejection, and that sucks. So it makes perfect sense to try to protect yourself from that. So your desire for what you want has to be greater than your fear of all these other things, and your desire for the other things that are opposed to it. The other thing is, a lot of times we decide to create things that will actually make us more unhappy, but we don't know it. So if you come up with something like that and try to build it, a lot of times your subconscious will make sure that you never succeed. And it's not because you secretly hate yourself or whatever. It's actually because you're trying to protect yourself. So for example, a while back, I was trying to release a coaching package and trying to sell it, where I would be a life coach basically, and have somebody, like all my clients would call me up once a week, and I would talk to them for an hour a week. And I would coach them, and they would have all these great outcomes and transformations and everything. And I loved that idea, and I really wanted to do this. And so I was like trying really hard to market it. And I was very confused when I was not able to do that. And what I realized later is that I hate having a whole lot of appointments on my schedule. And like the idea of having a whole bunch of clients all once a week for an hour was awesome in the amount of change that I could help them make, and the impact I could have, and the difference I could make in the world, but also horrifying in the thought of not having unscheduled time when I could create. And so subconsciously, I made sure that that would not happen, so that I would not end up in that scenario. You've probably watched other people build businesses that are basically worse than having a cubicle job. And I call that the pretty prison. You build this thing and you think it's going to be awesome, and actually it's horrible. And it's supposed to be your dream life, and it's worse than having a job. And if you're trying to do that, a lot of times your subconscious will be like, no, we ain't going there. Like, you don't really want this, and I'm going to do you a favor and make sure you don't get it. So that is the other thing to watch out for when you're considering the desire part of the roadmap to clients and flow. So the fifth piece of the roadmap is persistence. This is, I think, something that everybody realizes they need, but it's still kind of hard sometimes to have. And one reason for that is that we don't realize that just because something starts to suck and everything seems like it's falling apart, that doesn't mean it wasn't meant to be. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've started something And, you know, you start out with all this passion, you're so excited and you want to make this thing and you've got this big vision and it's going to be amazing and it's so awesome and it feels so exhilarating. And then as you go on, it gets really hard and it gets really sticky and it starts to feel really awful. And you wonder if it's ever going to work. And you think, wow, this was a big mistake. This wasn't what was meant for me after all, I guess. And then you quit. And the thing is, everything worth doing has that point sometime during the life cycle of it. And like, this is a known thing. I read about it in the book, the 12-week year, and he calls it the Valley of Despair. And basically, it's kind of like a an upside down bell curve where you start out really excited, you're up here and like you're just starting the project and it's like so awesome. And then you get going and it's like a little bit harder. You start realizing, you know, the difficulties. And then as you go on, like you get to the point where you're working really, really hard and you're far from the inspiration of the beginning. And you're also very far from the outcome that you want. And it's just a big drag and it's so hard. And you want to quit because it feels awful. And it feels like the whole thing is doomed. That's the Valley of Despair. And if you quit there, you can start a new thing and start back up at the top of the hill here and repeat that part again. You can keep doing that again and again forever if you want to. And it feels good to start something new. But the thing is, if you never go on past this bottom part, you never get to success. And so what happens after the Valley of Despair is if you keep going, you start building something and you start getting traction and you start getting your first results, and you start seeing that actually you're getting closer to the result that you wanted, and eventually you get to the outcome, and again you're back up to this high level of excitement and exhilaration, and this time it's because you've made it and you've built the thing that you wanted. And so a lot of people go to the beginning and get down to here and quit, and I've done that myself a million times. And you have to stick through that and get to the outcome if you really want, if you want to succeed and if you want to build what you want. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when you get really close to succeeding, there's some kind of thing that happens psychologically. I call it the 10th Avenue freak out, kind of a hat tip to Bruce Springsteen's 10th Avenue freeze out. Basically, the idea here is that when you get really close to what you want, it's like the universe conspires to give you one last big test. And it seems like everything suddenly just gets so hard and everything, like the shit hits the fan, everything falls apart. It seems impossible. And like resistance is at an all-time high. And it's real, it feels like you're doomed, but it's just one last test to make sure you really want this before you get to the outcome that you want. And if you can muddle through it or push past it or whatever you have to do, you can get there and you become your new self, basically, the new self you were creating with this project. But a lot of people get stopped by that. When I was doing the freelancing, I saw this all the time with my clients, as far as, you know, they'd write their manuscripts and they would like look at my editing and do whatever they needed to do to change it or accept it or whatever. And I'd send them the book cover designs and they would give me their feedback on that. And we'd get the whole way through the process, tons of work. They'd be all over it the whole time until the very end, where basically all they had left was to look it over one more time, make sure they liked it, upload it to the internet, and click the publish button. So basically maybe 3 hours of work left, or maybe just 1 hour of work left. Just upload it and click publish, you know, set up your account, whatever. You know, a tiny, tiny percent of the project overall. And like way the easiest part, except for the mental boundary of, oh my God, if I click publish, this thing is going to be out there and I'm really going to be an author. And it's like the change that changes the state in the universe somehow. And people freak out. And like I had clients stall at that point for weeks or months, just like 1 hour from being finished, because they couldn't stand to be finished. And one of the books that I worked on was about addiction, and the author talked about how he would, I forget the name of the drug. It wasn't methadone. It was a similar drug that's used to help people get off of heroin. And he would start them at whatever dose of this drug, and he would step them down and step them down and step them down. And he observed that the last step from like some tiny, tiny dose that basically had no noticeable impact in your body to zero, that last tiny step was where everybody melted down and would often backslide or get back on drugs or whatever, just because they were so freaked out by the difference between a tiny, tiny, tiny amount and zero, being finished, being over that threshold onto the other side. So if you don't know that that's a thing, that can stop you too. And it feels real. It feels like the worst thing in the world because your ego is like afraid it's going to die if you change this state of the universe. And so I've actually kind of the inspiration for this talk is I've got a lot of friends who are going through the 10th Avenue freakout right now. Like all of us are planning to host retreats this summer about the same time. And so we've all kind of gotten to that part of the path where the 10th Avenue freakout happens. We're almost done. We've got almost all the things. You just need to go a little bit farther. And then like the retreat will be real and people will be signed up for it and then you'll have to do it. And it's if I didn't know what was happening, I would be terrified because it's like clockwork, the 10th Avenue freakout. Everyone's freaking out and it seems like a disaster. And having seen this so many times before, I know that if we all just push through it, we'll make it to the other side and we'll host our retreats and it's going to be amazing and we'll be who we're trying to become, And so that it happens to everybody and it's an easy way to get stuck. So you need persistence to get through the Valley of Despair and the 10th Avenue freakout. Finally, the sixth piece of the roadmap that I want to tell you about is support. As I mentioned earlier in my story about my freelancing meltdown, it's really hard, if not completely impossible, to see through your own shit and to see what you're missing. And so you can take something that's 2 inches from being a success and turn it into a total failure in your head and destroy it and quit and give up. And that is so unnecessary. Like, seriously, if I had had the right support 2 years ago or whatever that was, I mean, I'm glad that things worked out the way they did because I believe everything's unfolding exactly as it should. And I don't really feel like helping people finish and publish their books anymore. But man, if I had had somebody to tell me, hey, you're not failing, you just need to make these couple tweaks to make your business livable. I'm uncomfortable even thinking about what a difference that would have made because I seriously spent over 2 years spending all my money, spending all my savings, unable to work, feeling like a giant failure and being miserable. So that's the kind of thing that you can skip if you have a coach. And it probably sounds like an exaggeration, but it's totally not. And the other thing is, even for less catastrophic stucknesses or whatever, it's just really helpful to have somebody who has done what you're trying to do, who can give you some perspective, who can give you maybe even some advice, and who can help you see what's good about you, what to do next. The times that I've hired a coach, it's actually a big part of what I've wanted is for somebody to believe in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And that can be invaluable as well. And above all, it's like I said, it's almost impossible to see your own shit, like the garbage in your head. It's been there so long, it's hard to recognize it as not being real. And that is one thing that a coach can help you with. That's a very valuable thing. So, so again, the 6 steps to the client and flow roadmap are passion, information, knowing what to do, belief that you can do it, desire to do it, and that desire needs to be greater than your fear and your contradictory desires, persistence, and support. I'd like for a minute to just go back to the vision that we started this talk with. If you think about what it would be like to have a business where you have an abundant flow of ideal clients, dream projects, and the ability to manage them so they don't take over your life. So you still have time to walk in the woods, to be with your family, to go get massages if that's what you're into, to rest, all of the things that you need to have a full, complete, and enjoyable life. That's the vision. That's what I want for you. And that's why I've given this presentation. And I hope it's helped you. If you would like to take the next step, I am offering support. I'm going to be offering 6 breakthrough to flow calls this week. So for the first 6 people who apply and seem like a good fit, we can get on the phone. This is absolutely free. And I will talk to you about where you are, where you want to be, and what's holding you back. I will coach you and I will help you see what you're missing. And if you want to work with me further after that, we can talk about that too, but really there's no obligation. Just, I want to give back. Basically, my coach has helped me so much, and I want to help other people similarly. Like, if you're stuck, you're not making the difference you could be in the world, and like, that's not cool. Like, I want everybody to be able to do what they're great at and do their genius and whatever that is, and help the people they need to help and make their impact on the world. I feel like if we all did that, the world would be amazing. It would be completely transformed. So so I'm giving away 6 of these calls this week, and I have a few spots next week if you can't make it this week. So if you're interested, this could be a life-changing experience for you. Apply for a Breakthrough to Flow call, and I'll look forward to talking with you. Meanwhile, thanks for being here. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this, and I hope you will truly build the business and life of your dreams. Go forth and flow. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.